Welcome back to another episode of Marvel News Desk, the official podcast of MCU Exchange, and the best place to keep up with all the latest news, reviews, and speculation concerning the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm Caleb Borchers, and as always, we have with us our crew of Adam and Rhiannon. Guys, did you have a good weekend? Anything exciting in your worlds?
I went to the Sarasota Spa State Park today because I was just intrigued with the whole idea that New York had a state park with spa in the name. And I drank some really disgusting carbonated water that came straight from the ground.
Nice.
I was about to say, is it actually a spa in any way, or is it just like water? Like what?
Like, it used to be, like, it's got a lot of geysers, a lot of natural geysers, and a lot of, like, mineral-rich waters. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt made it when he was governor of New York, if I'm remembering this right. When he was governor of New York, he made it like a resort-type place where people could go and sit in mineral baths made of, with this special water. And it was supposed to have healing properties. So yeah, there are spas around there still. I didn't go to any actual spas. I just went to the state park that had, like, run down what used to be really fancy spas. So it was really interesting.
Well, this is making more sense. I have a friend that grew up in the area, and she grew up in a town called Ballston Spa. And so now it makes more sense to me why her town was called that. So
probably, yeah.
Informed me greatly, actually, with this beginning. If you're still listening to our podcast, we do talk about Marvel. We just, I don't know. Sometimes I like to ease into it. Don't like to go straight at it. So here's the piece of news that we missed last week. And I can't believe we missed it because it was a big scoop for our site. Apparently, in Infinity War, Hawkeye, or Clint Barton, is going to come in as Ronin. Adam, for people that don't know the comics too well, who's Ronin, and are you excited about this development?
Yeah, very. In the Slack chat, I was joking around that because I just bought the first appearance of him as Ronin in the comics, and he's like a ninja type dude. He ditches the bow and arrow and goes all samurai with the swords and stuff. So he wears this really cool, slick looking, like, black mask type deal, which I'm not sure if he'll actually have it in the MCU, but it's kind of more of a darker persona, so I think that's a really cool thing. I know Jeremy Renner in the past has talked about wanting a badass version of Clint Barton, so I wonder if this is the actual thing he's talking about. But yeah, I'm excited to see the potential to see Ronin, I guess.
So I have a question as a more modern Hawkeye fan. Will this give us some sort of payoff for the Clint Barton having a family that we saw in Age of Ultron? Like, is there something from that storyline that could lead into Ronin that gives that whole twist value?
Yeah, I mean, reading through the comments and read and all that stuff, I think that that's kind of the reason he does become Ronin, is something happens to his family. So I'm not sure if that's the way we want his family's appearance to pay off. But I guess that's the most popular fan theory, at least I've been seeing so far.
Yeah, a lot of that goes to the fact that Ronin is actually a Japanese term for a particular kind of samurai that is far predates Marvel. And apparently, according to Wikipedia, the word Ronin means wave man, and it is an idiomatic expression for a vagrant or a wandering man, someone who is without a home. So I think that's where a lot of this goes, is just this concept of a Ronin, of this loner warrior, just would make sense if he does this because his family's been killed. Which is kind of interesting, because it was kind of an interesting choice to make him a family man along the Ultimate line to begin with, and then to kill the family the next chance they get is kind of fascinating.
Okay. All right, so I'll give it a chance as being something that redeems that storyline. That,
I mean, on the flip side, it is one of those deals. I'm not sure Hawkeye's a well-known enough character that the general audience is going to know what in the heck's going on. They might see Jeremy Renner pop up in like this black suit and go, "Who's that?" But
Like, here's a totally new actor and a totally new character.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not like Tony Stark switching to become War Machine or Iron Patriot or something, so we'll see. I mean, I'm a big fan of the character and stuff. I know that's one of my favorite, his first appearance is one of my favorite covers of all time. But yeah.
I'm also curious. I mean, I'm not trying to undermine the story on our site at all, because I think we've got good info for it. I just don't know, are they going to call him Ronin, or are they going to call Cap Nomad? Or is this a thing where the costuming is going to, like, basically we're going to have under, like the Black Ops Avengers, because they're underground. And Cap's going to wear a costume that looks kind of like Nomad's costume, and Hawkeye's going to wear something that looks a little bit like Ronin. And, maybe Black Widow is going to wear something different that's some other kind of persona. And they're going to kind of play with these comic roles without actually giving them the name. Like, it was really just about costuming more than anything else.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, so it might be that type of thing. I don't think anyone's called Wanda Scarlet Witch, So, yeah, I'm not sure.
I think they have called her the Witch at some point.
Okay.
I mean, this is one of those things that we're not thinking of it. I'm sure that we will have 18 tweets by the time that this week is over, reminding us of, hey, Adam, how'd you not remember that there was this one time in a deleted scene that...
Yeah, but I was thinking that the other day. I'm like, well, if they call him Ronin, then I got to thinking, I'm not sure if anyone's ever called him Hawkeye. It's just much easier to say, hey, Clint, what's up?
I feel like there might have been an offhanded reference of him as Hawkeye, just more jokingly than, like, they actually call him Hawkeye. For some reason, I'm thinking there's a scene where he was on the lookout and they were like, hey, Hawkeye, what do you see? Or something like that, but I couldn't tell you when and where.
I'm sure someone will let me know tomorrow morning.
Yes. This is why Twitter exists, for people to tell us how wrong we are.
The next piece of news that we've got is some more Avengers 4 stuff. Apparently they are casting some actresses to be 1960s secretaries. This is the newest thing on the website today, so I think that's kind of interesting. It suggests we might get a flashback and maybe some Peggy Carter. That would be really awesome. And also we have the casting of Hiroyuki Sanada, who was in The Wolverine a few years ago, the Mangold movie before Logan. Either of these casting things particularly exciting for you guys? Are you hoping for Peggy Carter to come back? Any thoughts on Avengers 4 and the Japanese stuff and the flashback stuff and all that?
I'm wondering how the flashback stuff, if it's going to tie in or give us some sort of introduction to Captain Marvel. Which I realize is the most obvious, conclusion. But
yeah, I'm not sure what to think about this. Someone said, I can't remember who it was, but I was reading it, and they think that, this Ronin thing and all this stuff is actually an alternate reality, and that's what most of Avengers 4 is going to be actually filmed in. Where at the end of Infinity War, Thanos snaps his fingers and everything disappears and gets mangled and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I'm not familiar with this actor at all. So, I really don't know what to expect. I mean, hopefully it's not something to tie the Wolverine in with the MCU or something like that. But, yeah, I guess I don't know what to think about. I'm not sure I even know who the actor is.
I think he was Silver Samurai. Did you see The Wolverine?
I can't remember. I don't think I ever did watch it.
It's pretty deep. Well, it's one where the first two acts told you that they could make a movie as good as Logan, and then the third act reminded you it was the same studio that made X-Men Apocalypse. It's just really... okay. There's a great scene, he's going up to, the bad guy's, lair, and anyways, he's fighting ninjas, and it's really cool, and then it's just, CGI baloney at the end, so... yeah, I mean, the thing is, they're trying to keep it secret what Avengers 4 is, and they're doing an excellent job. I have no idea what this movie is. When they keep talking about Japan and Yakuza type people, and then they hire a Japanese actor, I don't know. Is Thanos hiding out in Tokyo? It's just there's things that I can't grasp, and maybe they make lots of sense, and I would love if it was like a Battle World Secret Wars kind of thing. It's just, we keep finding out this stuff that we don't know. And I'm going to be very impressed if it's until May. Like, if they can make it till May until we find out the title of Avengers 4, and then I see it at the end credits, and I'm like, oh, and it all makes sense, you know? Like, it will be incredible if Marvel's able to pull this off. All right, let's move to some Punisher news. A lot of stuff dropped this week on moviepilot.com to talk about Punisher and the different elements that are going to be in the show. I can't hit everything. I'll hit a couple things. You guys tell me if I missed something important. Apparently the battle van is coming, which I think is really cool. They blew up a van in Daredevil Season 2, and I thought that was the closest we were going to get to like a reference to that, so that's pretty exciting. There's going to be a new character that they have created. I don't have her name here, but she's going to be an Iranian descendant Department of Homeland Security agent who also has spent some time serving overseas in Afghanistan. And I just love like the complexity of her character. Sounds very interesting. And we have an image that tells us that Turk Barrett is in fact returning to be in this. Rhiannon, I know you love Turk. Are you super excited about Punisher bringing him back?
Absolutely. I when Turk first showed up in Daredevil, my hope was that he would pop up all over the MCU, if not just like the Netflix shows. And, you know, he hasn't been everywhere, but he's been enough places that I'm excited to see him. Especially after Rob Morgan like ran his mouth about Marvel at some point on Twitter. Like, I'm just glad that they didn't use that as an excuse to kill off Turk Barrett.
Yeah, it's really funny to me when I did the reviews, or like when I kind of did the look back on the Defender shows, and I tried to create a watching order to get all the shows kind of chronologically in place, since Daredevil Season 2 and Luke Cage overlap. Turk Barrett is the only way you can do it. Like, he is the key figure in trying to create a chronological watching order of Netflix, because he pops up everywhere, you know?
Yeah, you'd expect it would be Claire, but Turk really gives you more information.
I'm starting to get hyped about this show a little bit. You got the battle van, there's just going to be a bunch of guns and weapons and carnage, and it should be a good time.
Yeah, I should say we also found out a little bit about Micro, and he's apparently going to be kind of like a whistle-blowing Ed Snowden kind of figure. There's a lot of stuff in here about espionage and like spies and information and what information leaks out and what doesn't. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Enemy of the State, or like those kinds of or like The Net, even, you know, like those 90s movies that made us scared of the internet before we had it. I just think that this could be really interesting, and I'm really loving the vibe that they've created for it. That it's not just a, hey, let's watch Punisher shoot lots of people, but it's actually a show in which we'll see a storyline about the government and information and the military and the things that the government tries to get away with that they shouldn't get away with, and the people who try to expose that and what happens when they do so. Like, all that stuff I think is just really fascinating.
Yeah, and there was, I think Jeff Loeb said something this week that the show's not going to rely solely on his big guns and all that stuff, and rather it is going to give his tactical brilliance, you know, a chance to shine. So I think that's going to be very intriguing to see unfold. And after seeing, you know, Daredevil Season 2, where Frank's essentially an antagonist, you know, one would wonder how they're going to take this show, and I like how they're going to... I mean, he's essentially serving as a whistleblower with Micro of sorts. You know, I'm not sure if they're going up against the government or what agency or what, but should be a good show.
Well, there was an interesting... one of the articles that gave a little bit more information about Micro. There was one article, it was mostly about Punisher. He's going to... Bernthal was talking about how Frank is going to basically regain his humanity. Like, his journey is over after Daredevil. He's avenged his family, and then stuff is going to happen where he loses it all again, just like loses his humanity all over. But in that article, it said something about Micro having had a similar history to Frank. So I thought that was an interesting detail, where Micro's gonna possibly have his own family that's been unjustly attacked or dead family backgrounds.
Actually,
all around.
what I heard, Rhiannon, and I heard this on a podcast, so I may be repeating bad information from another podcast, which, oops, we're sorry. But somebody was saying that what's going to happen is apparently Micro chooses to leave his family to go into like witness protection or something like that. Like he leaves his family in order to stay safe.
Is this from the comics, or is this a theory, or is this something that's going
to
happen?
It was something from an interview from talking to the people making Punisher on Netflix. It was my understanding.
Oh, okay.
And so the dynamic that was set up, at least according to what I heard, and I need to double check it, but the dynamic that I heard was basically you've got Frank here who would give anything to have his family back, and he's trying to work with this guy who willingly gave up his family just to save his own hide. And that's like a really fascinating like mirror image of one, like totally opposite, like a foil thing going on that would be really interesting to play out.
Yeah. And they've set that up well with Frank urging Karen, because Frank in Daredevil was very much telling Karen, there's this guy, he loves you, you should go have that. And so, there's something in Frank that is very much the romantic.
This was from the movie pilot stuff. I'm reading off another site. He hides out in the basement of the power plant of Roosevelt Island and lives off the grid. This is Micro. The series begins with Micro reaching out to Castle as he believes the same threat that left him with no options but to fake his own death are also the same folks that Frank's currently targeting. So apparently Micro is going to fake his death and leave his family behind. So.
Oh, okay. Well, interesting.
All right. This is kind of a small news thing, but it's kind of big because we love the show. Jessica Jones is done wrapping. There's been a little bit of talk that it seemed to be a short production. Is there anything? I mean, does that strike you as important, Rhiannon, or is this just a normal Jessica? I mean, is this a usual Netflix shoot?
I don't know. I mean, it was 5 months instead of 6.
I think it was 5 and change
they
too.
Also,
so.
Yeah, it's like 5 and change, and they didn't have to deal with any holidays or, it was pretty much through the summer. They didn't have to worry about snowstorms and hurricanes or anything shutting down production. So I imagine they had budgeted for a 6-month filming, and just without all of that, it's probably the exact same screen time. That being said, they are still, completely common. They are still filming. Kristen Ritter posted on Instagram today that she has to film in the morning, or maybe she was filming this morning or something. So they usually do. They have the wrap party and then they keep filming for another week or two. But primary filming is over.
I feel like Jessica Jones is the least stunt-heavy show of the Netflix shows as well. I mean, I loved her first season, but there weren't a ton of fights in that season, I don't think. Her power set doesn't really require, like, there's no, like with Luke Cage, you at least have to do, like, lots of squibs and gunshots and, like, work with, like, prop guns and stuff. But I feel like Jessica just requires the least amount of that stuff. I think the choreography work for Daredevil should add at least a month longer than a Jessica Jones. Like, it just seems you go from hallway fights to kind of what Jessica does, and it seems like it should be shorter to film,
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we have no idea what they're doing this season. We really don't even know anything about this season that they just filmed as far as who the villain really is and what their powers are or anything like that. So we don't know what they have in store as far as fights and action.
Next bit of news, Thor Ragnarok has had a lot of news come out this week. On the negative side, there's been kind of this issue with Stephanie Folsom. She apparently did some screenwriting kind of work on the film, and it seems like it's kind of a crummy situation for everybody. Apparently, the Writers Guild of America has rules about how many people can be credited as writers or working on a story because they don't want to, like, cheapen the credit. But that means that sometimes you have multiple people involved and only some of them get credit in the film. And so apparently she's been kind of left on the outside looking in. Doesn't seem like she's really mad at Marvel, but there's just, it's weirdness. And so that's been in the media a bit. Also, the first projections are out for box office, and they think that the movie will make $100 million its opening weekend, which I would be very impressed if it got there. And there's been some talk that some of the storylines about Gore, the God Killer, would be pulled into Hela and her character. Adam, any of that stuff interesting to you? Anything particular you care about there?
We're under 2 months away now. I mean, it's sneaking up on us. I'm excited to see it. In terms of the box office, I'm actually probably going to take the over on that. Which you're the box office guru, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised if it got more than 100 in the opening weekend. And the Gore the God Butcher stuff, how they're incorporating that into Hela, cool. I mean, he kind of played a little bit into this most recent Unworthy run. Yeah, that's about it, I guess.
Well, I mean, I wrote up the Stephanie article about the Writers Guild, so if anybody's more interested in that, because it's a real interesting situation of how they handle it. But I'm also with Adam. Like, I won't be surprised if this is a box office shocker, because folks just seem to be really hyped about this movie. And I think people are just looking for things to be really excited to go to the movies and see.
Yeah, I think the thing that's really shocked me is, yes, I'm getting into the DC Marvel flame war again. Like, Justice League comes out 2 weeks later, and all of the tracking that they do with social media suggests that people are significantly more excited about Ragnarok than they are about Justice League. Which makes sense to me, because Justice League looks bad to me because I hate DC movies. But, I mean, it's kind of weird, and it kind of shows me that, like, comic audiences now, they have to see something different. They need to see something. And I think a lot of people see this trailer and they go, wow, that looks different and it looks funny, and there's like the color and like all of that stuff is like not what I expect. And I think they're looking at Justice League and they're saying, that just looks kind of the same old, same old. It looks like Batman vs. Superman Part 4, And I think that really matters. I think there are some people who this November are only going to buy a ticket to one or the other of those. And all the numbers that we're seeing suggest that Thor Ragnarok, if people are choosing, that they're probably going to pick Ragnarok because it looks like a much better time than Justice League. Adam, you like DC stuff. Is that fair enough? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I just think the movie's kind of a mess. I think I just read an article where they're still filming reshoots, which is kind of surprising since it's two months from today. But, looking at Ragnarok, it doesn't even look anything. What we've seen, it doesn't look anything like the previous two movies. And I think that's, you have to applaud Marvel for that, because they keep on reinventing the wheel while using the same characters. We're getting Guardians. I mean, Guardians 1 and Guardians 2 looked different, with the different colors and stuff, and Doctor Strange isn't coming on board, and Ragnarok looks nothing like the Dark World or the first Thor, and they are doing some. I saw they posted some overseas movie theater chain. I'm not sure if they're doing it stateside, but they're doing those big green Hulk gloves, except like the fist is hollowed out so you can get popcorn in it while wearing the Hulk gloves, and they're doing Thor's battle helmet as a popcorn bucket and stuff like that, and that's not really stuff they've done for other Marvel movies. The theater chains will always give like an exclusive poster or small swag or something like that, but at least around here, they don't do that much merchandising at the movie theater, So I'm excited to see it. We're finally gonna get a Thor movie that I really, really like, I think.
I got really excited about those Hulk gloves too, because that looked really neat. And then I saw that it was only in, like, was it in China or Thailand? No, Thailand, I think, is where they're going to have it. There's no news yet of it being in the U.S.
I'm crossing my fingers.
So, yeah, I'm crossing my fingers on that too.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool to see. I'm happy for it to do well. I'm a little bummed because I didn't predict it in my box office predictions about a year ago, but that's okay. I'll take that hit to my pride. I've been shocked at how this thing has taken off on social media. So, but then again, I'm way more excited about it than I thought I would be a year ago. So, I should also mention on box office, I need to write this up for the site. There was a lot of talk about Spider-Man Homecoming and it being kind of a disappointment. If you have not been paying attention to the international box office, the Chinese numbers started coming in last week when it released in China, and it made like $72 million its first weekend in China. And I'm sure, I haven't looked today, I'm guessing it probably made another 20 or 30 this weekend. That's going to vault it up very high. It's going to make the worldwide box office bigger than Wonder Woman's worldwide box office. And it's going to make sure it challenges Guardians pretty tight for the biggest Marvel movie of the year. So, reports of Spider-Man Homecoming's death were greatly exaggerated. It actually is doing fine. It's just a weird thing when China releases, 2 months after everybody else.
And that was crazy. Tom Holland, yesterday, posted that he finally finished his press tour for Spider-Man. It feels like him doing press for Spider-Man Homecoming was so long ago, and he's really just now stopped pimping that movie.
Yeah, it was a weird thing, though, because there was a big gap. What happens is the Chinese government has strict control over what gets shown and doesn't get shown in China. And one of the things they like to do is create a 6 to 8, sometimes 4-week window at the end of summer where they only let Chinese films show in order to kind of boost the local economy. And so if you don't get in before that, you get pushed to September. And that's what happened to Homecoming. They didn't get it released before the blackout window. It was a long blackout window this year. And so it got pushed out to September, and it just creates weirdness in the market. It also creates a place where some movie called Wolfpack Team 2 or something like that, some random Chinese movie, is the third highest grossing movie in the world this year because it's the only thing people in China could watch for a month. So it's kind of bizarre. Anyway.
Well, congrats to Wolfpack Team trashing.
Yes, it's not
congrats to those guys.
It's what is it? Wolf Warrior 2 is the name of the movie. So I'm sure it got a US release somewhere, but anyway. Moving on to our next news, we have Inhumans news. So the titles to the 8 Inhumans episodes have come out. I will read them real quick. You guys can tell me if you have any interesting thoughts on those. The first episode, which was shown in IMAX, was Behold the Inhumans, which is a fun throwback to the original Fantastic Four intro to those characters. Episode 2, also in IMAX, was Those Who Destroyed Us. Episode 3, Divide and Conquer, then Make Way for Medusa, Something Inhuman This Way Comes, The Gentleman's Name is Gorgon, Havoc in the Hidden Land, and finally, Black Bolt. Any of these excite either of you?
Well, first off, I'd like to give props to the commenter on our website, because I read up this article and I made a lot of jokes about all the ellipses in these titles and all of that, and the commenter that pointed out and posted the covers that all of these are from comics and shared all of that, which is really something we should have done, and I hate that I didn't take that approach, because it totally seemed like they should be comic book titles, and I've read a lot of them. But anyways, props to that guy.
It's funny because some of them, Behold the Inhumans, totally I knew was, but I didn't know that all 8 of them were, so I wouldn't have known either.
I mean, it has some interesting directions that the show could be going with this list of titles. I think we're all pretty psyched for that last one with Behold Black Bolt. Or was it? And finally, yeah. Black Bolt. Yeah, I know you have some high hopes for that one, Caleb.
I'm hoping that we actually get Black Bolt. That maybe there'll be a helmet, maybe we'll see some electrical sparks, maybe we'll see some flying. But, probably what it will be is he'll probably flip over another cop car with his voice. That's
he'll
probably
flip over 2 cop cars.
It'll be the same cop car that they've CGI'd a different background onto to save money. That's probably what'll happen. But other quick news things, Patrick Fabian is coming to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. apparently. He is on Better Call Saul as an actor. Either of you guys know Patrick Fabian? Any interest in who he is? There you go. Apparently we don't watch Better Call Saul on this show. Stan Lee says that the X-Men, that Marvel is always working to get the X-Men back, and it will happen sooner or later. I wrote an article on the site where I basically said I don't think we can trust Stan on this stuff anymore. Does it make a difference to you guys? Like, if you hear Stan Lee say these things, do you actually believe it makes a difference, or is he just kind of being positive Stan?
I don't get excited anymore. And he is very careful with his language. He's like, I would really like this to happen. Or, one day this could happen, so...
Yeah, that's about it, With caution, take his words with caution. I know he's almost slipped up a couple times before. I think there's going to be a little truth to at least the Fantastic Four. I think we'll see them in the MCU, way sooner than the X-Men. But that's just personal opinion and beliefs. So yeah, you got to be like your article said, how ingrained in this stuff is Stan Lee. He does his cameos and stuff, but does Kevin and Jeff consult him with decisions and stuff like that? Probably not. So yeah, I think he's just... he created most of the characters, or helped create most of the characters with Jack Kirby. So I think he wants to see them all together in the movies. So yeah.
Yeah, when I heard him at HasCon, he would talk about even the cameos, and he didn't have any sense of ownership of them. He was like, I just sit at home and I wait for them to call me, and when they call me, I say yes, because I always want to do it. And I show up and I do what they want me to, and I have a fun time. It wasn't like Stan's not sitting in helping write his own scenes or anything. They just they bring him in, they tell him what they want him to do, and he does it. And I just don't think he has a lot of creative control over anything, or is just involved in this stuff. And I also think that his personality and how he's been so good at what he does is he's an endless promoter, and he finds a way to make everything sound exciting. This is a guy who has sold every comic book under the sun. And so I think that when he's talking about this stuff, he gets excited about it and acts like it's really fun and cool because that's what he does. And I don't think that means that Fantastic Four is coming anytime soon. All right, so today for our main conversation, we try to be really honest on the show. And the reality is there's not a whole lot interesting to talk about. We're kind of between Inhumans and... Thor Ragnarok and waiting for more news about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we decided that we would hit just questions that we talk about a lot. And this means we'll talk about some things that maybe we've talked about in the past. As we looked at some of these things, we've talked about it since we started the show, but it was 6 months ago, and there was literally 1/3 as many listeners as there are today. And things change. So we're going to just take some questions that are kind of questions that are always running in the back of our minds, things that fans are always asking about. When we do the live chats that Adam and Rhiannon and others have been doing on Facebook, they're things that people ask a lot. And so we're going to hit some of these and kind of just talk about them again, or talk about them for a first time in some of these cases, and just kind of see where we're at with these different questions of the MCU. So my first question: when will we get a Phase 4 film announcement? So I did some research, guys. I went back to find out how long it was between the announcement of the MCU movies and when they actually hit theaters. All right, so I'm going to run through these pretty quickly, but this is how long things were in production at Marvel. Iron Man was announced 30 months before it came out. Hulk, another 30 months. Iron Man 2, 24 months. Thor was 58 months. Captain America was 60 months. Avengers was 36 months. Iron Man 3 was 31 months. Thor 2 was 31 months. Captain America 2 was 36 months. Guardians of the Galaxy was 25. Avengers 2, 36. Ant-Man was announced 111 months before it finally came out because they had all the development issues with it. Civil War, we only had a 19-month head start. Doctor Strange was 25. Guardians 2, 34. Spider-Man Homecoming, 29. Thor Ragnarok was 37. Black Panther 40, Infinity War 43 months, Ant-Man and the Wasp 33 months, Captain Marvel 53, Avengers 4 55, Spider-Man 2, Homecoming, Prom, whatever, will be 19. And assuming Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 comes out in May of 2020, as we believe, that will be 37 months. So generally speaking, we find out 2 or 3 years at least ahead of time, sometimes 5 years ahead. We have no movies past May or past July of 2019. So if they announce something today for that fall, it would only be about 2 years out. Obviously, this is part of their strategy. They're said they can't tell us more about this until there is until some things happen. They don't want to spoil movies. What do you think? Like, do you think at New York Comic Con we get some of this, or is it next summer at San Diego, or are they going to announce something after we finally get Infinity War? Like, do you have any hopes of when we're going to be able to announce a new movie coming out?
I mean, I was really shocked that they didn't do this at D23 or Comic-Con this past year at San Diego. Marvel Studios doesn't come to New York Comic-Con. We don't get that news. I mean, those are their two big outlets, and D23 being the big Disney event, being, theirs, and it being only every other year. I was floored that wasn't when we got the panel of what's coming out. Even if they had been very vague about it, we have 3 movies for 2020 and we have 3 for 2021, or we're going to focus on these characters. It just seems like we would have gotten something. So now that those events have come and gone and we didn't get any announcements in that regard, I have no idea when they're going to tell us. Adam, do you have a clue?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with the exact thing you said. I think I was thinking it was going to be at D23 this year, since the event is every other year. Looking at the schedule, I mean, we have 3 movies in the span of 4 months next year, or 6 months, is it? Needless to say, all of our Marvel Studios movies is going to be done, by the second weekend in July. So San Diego's going to be late July, so I think that would be the perfect time to do it. Because now, at the point, they would only have 4 announced films, of course, unless something comes out between now and then. But in terms of like a massive, massive film dump like they've done previously, I would guess San Diego next year, because I thought that was going to come at D23 this year.
Do you think they'll ever do a massive dump again, or are we going to get them one at a time? Like, how did you guys feel? At this point, we are now 3 years since the big El Capitan announcement of the entire Phase 3. They obviously had to adjust a little because of the success of Ant-Man and because of adding Spider-Man into the mix. Do you like getting all of those movies at once, like a gigantic announcement, and then you get nothing for 3 years? Or would you rather them do it kind of one at a time?
Yeah, that's that's the other side of the coin, because Inhumans was in that.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the reminder. Yes, according to that announcement, I should be a mere 12 months away from an awesome Inhumans movie, but
instead you're under 2 weeks away from a semi-awesome TV show. So, that's the other thing. Since they didn't do it at D23 this year, is that going to be something they even do again? They kind of... I don't even know how they announced the Homecoming 2 sequel, and James Gunn pretty much grabbed Volume 3 by the horns and posted it on social, So, I'm not sure what their plans are. Personally, I think it would be awesome for them to do another one of that, just because we know, and there was only Inhumans that didn't make, the final cutting board or whatever you want to call it, so, I would like it, but I'm just not sure if it's something that they're going to keep on doing.
There was something comforting about the big movie slate. I get comfort in knowing that there is this big master plan and that they are working towards that plan. And when they go to more of a, okay, and then this is next, okay, and then this is next, it takes away some of that comfort that I feel that Feige has a master plan and that he's working with everybody to make it happen. Now, it doesn't mean that it isn't. It doesn't mean that, all the folks involved, but as it gets bigger, I worry about it heading more towards the same situation that we're feeling in television where, at what point are they not going to be able to hold it all together, and is it not going to feel like it's all, will they be working towards another big thing? Have the movies all been working towards Infinity War, and then after that it's just going to be, okay, here's our bunch of standalone movies that happen to be connected in this universe.
Yeah, I think one of the things that this is kind of adjacent, I think, to what you're saying. I love how official the El Capitan release was. Like, it felt like they were having a major event to tell the press, these are the movies that are coming to you. And obviously Inhumans is the big exception there, but generally speaking, they keep their word on that. Again, just because it's a helpful comparison, you look at the DCEU, and they have, 15, 20 movies that they've said that they're maybe putting out? And it's always via, leaks to Deadline or Variety, and there's somebody talking about it, and there's rumors about who's coming in and who's coming out. Or they do, a call with, investors, and they throw ideas out there, and then they either cancel or suspend movies for indefinite periods, and you never know why. And if I was a big fan of that universe, I'd be so frustrated that I don't even know what's happening. With a property as big as The Flash, is that movie coming out? Because it was supposed to be coming out, and they had 3 directors, and then they all left, and then now we don't know where it is, and it's all shaky. And Marvel doesn't do that to me, when they say, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do it, and they announce it in such a big way, be it at San Diego or D23 or their own event, whatever it is, that it's here it is, put it in ink, it's concrete, cemented in there, this is going to happen. And I love that Marvel is very official about that, and that I'm not reading a Variety article about, about a Shang-Chi movie or something, it's just I know that these things are definitely happening. Let's move on to another question. This is one that Rhiannon brought up as we were talking. Will the MCU ever win a major Oscar or Emmy award? Now, if you're paying attention this week, Luke Cage won an Emmy award. Was it stunts in a television series or something?
Yeah, it was stunts in a television series. Which
is really interesting because I didn't love that. All I can think of is that Diamondback fight, which I thought was kind of bad. So it's interesting to me that that's what it won. I don't know. If Daredevil's hallway fight scene can't win a stunt award, but Luke Cage can, that seems odd to me. But anyway,
I'm kind of thinking that it was sort of the Academy's, sorry we didn't give you one for Daredevil. Here you go. I'm at least taking it that way. Because they do crap that all the time.
just wait until Iron Fist gets a stunts award.
Do you guys think, do you have any hope anymore of any big awards coming the MCU's way, or does it feel like that's never going to happen?
There's all kinds of awards, there is the stunts and makeup and costuming, there's stuff like that, visual effects, that the movies are on par with the stuff that win. There's no reason that Avatar is more deserving of an Oscar than some of the stuff that we saw in Doctor Strange. But
Suicide Squad.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I was about to go there. Yeah. I was like, and then you have Suicide Squad, which won a friggin' Oscar this past year.
What was it for makeup?
And if Suicide Squad can have an Oscar.
Was it for makeup? Huh? Did Suicide Squad win for makeup? Is that right?
Yeah, makeup.
Well, there you go. Harley Quinn, I'll tell you, that cheap pink hair and white face makeup. I don't know how they pulled that off. That was real championship caliber.
Right?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right? So in a world that Suicide Squad gets an Oscar, anything in the MCU can get an Oscar. But I think we're still a ways from it getting a Best Picture Oscar or a leading actor or supporting actor. Though even Deadpool got nominated. in a comedy, I believe. Was it a comedy that he got nominated for Best Actor?
At the Golden Globes, yeah.
Oh, Golden Globe. But still, I'd take a Golden Globe. That would be cool.
So this week it came out that Logan was the first movie to send screener DVDs to the Academy voters.
Really?
Yeah. This seems like fool's gold to me. There is no way Logan's getting nominated for anything. I just don't believe that's going to happen. Am I too skeptical on that, or?
But there were wait. Now I'm remembering. Wasn't there a story behind that where like they had to pick something to push, and like they almost did, or like one year they put everything into one. Anyways, they had reason behind what they push, and after the success of Deadpool last year, they actually decided that it was worth it with Logan. And I think Logan has a chance. I think Logan is that dark, gritty realness that the Academy seems to just eat up. So maybe Logan could be the movie that pushes through. And maybe The Defenders can get an Emmy.
Best use of Dragon Bones. Defenders.
I mean, yeah. I mean, think of a director like Taika Waititi. You know, what happens if Ragnarok just blows up the box office and is the biggest Marvel commercially movie of all time? You know, it just breaks all sorts of stuff. I mean, does someone like him get a shot at Best Director or something? You know, because he's a critically acclaimed guy. You know, and I mean, he hasn't really done any huge movies, but pretty much everything he's touched has done very well critically. You know, I mean, that's something like that. I mean, I don't think the MCU will ever see a Best Picture or anything, but does a guy like Taika get a nomination for Best Director, you think?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I'm just Mr. Cynical on this. I don't think there's any hope at all. No.
You don't? Why not?
Okay, one of the things is you have to remember the Academy hates things that don't happen in realistic settings. So if I remember correctly, the only movie that has ever won Best Picture that did not take place on Earth and without anything supernatural in it is Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. Certainly, that's the only movie that has ever taken place anywhere but on planet Earth to win. I mean, we're just talking about even space. Star Wars, 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Martian, you name it.
No,
if
Avatar,
movies don't take place on Earth, they don't win Best Picture.
Avatar ate up the box. It won Oscar. Oh no, it got nominated all around.
Yeah, so I mean, there's occasional times when other things happen, but it's the Academy just hates sci-fi. They hate genre. They hate comic book movies. Heath Ledger obviously won an Oscar. He had the whole, the thing where he died, and there was all the story around it, and it sort of built up this like big thing. I don't know. I have a hard time believing it. And the other thing is, I don't think that Fox and Marvel care enough about these things to look ahead. Because I've heard the Logan argument. I've heard people say that Black Panther would be a good candidate for an Oscar. February is literally the last month in the world that you want to drop a movie to win an Oscar. If Marvel really wanted that cast to have a shot, they would release the movie in November. It's very rarely that a movie releases early in the year and does well later on at the Oscars. So I just think there's a whole game that you have to play to get into these awards that I don't think Marvel and Fox are playing, and I don't think they even know how to play it, and I don't know if they want to play it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about the February argument. And I've even heard that, like directors, if they're signing up for a movie that they think will be an Oscar, they have to clear their calendar for that month of Oscar hype where they're doing so much just interviews and stuff and trying to get the Academy to vote for them. That it's a really big deal if the director is expecting their movie to be Oscar worthy.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about acting, I mean, I don't know, let's say Tom Hiddleston has a really emotional turn in Thor Ragnarok. I don't think that's likely, but let's say that it's just like this deep soul-bearing acting award that he could be getting an associate actor. That's not the right term. What am I thinking of? supporting actor for, right? He's going to be in the middle of shooting Avengers 4, probably, in the middle of that awards season, you know? Like, Marvel is like, hey, sorry, pal, forget that stuff. We need you on set fighting Thanos, you know? So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think Marvel cares about the stuff. And I think studios have to care to push awards. So, but I may just be negative. You know, maybe Justice League will be Picture of the Year next year. We'll find out.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's totally out of the question for best makeup or something like that. You know, I mean, you have Suicide Squad. I think Star Trek won that a couple years ago. So I mean, Guardians or something of the nature. Certainly, I don't see why not.
Yeah, and part of my argument too is the when will we see better than argument. So, like, will we see a MCU show get nominated for an Emmy in acting? Well, when are we going to see better than Vincent D'Onofrio in Daredevil Season 1, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that was not worthy of a nomination, what's Marvel supposed to do?
But I truly think, but they truly do come back and say, they do the We Made a Mistake awards.
That's true. You
know, we could see D'Onofrio pop up in Season 3 and do a fantastic job. That's not Season 1. But the Academy is like, yeah, dude, we really should have done this 3 years ago. And now is your nomination.
Yeah. For me, there's knock on, though. I mean, John Bernthal, I thought, was excellent in Daredevil Season 2. Who didn't love Mahershala Ali in Luke Cage? And that was the same time he's getting Oscar nominations. And the Emmys can't even nominate him for Luke Cage? Like, it just tells me they don't care about us as comic fans. I'll make it personal. They don't care about me. No, I mean, so... and, you know, on the Academy Awards side, Joss Whedon's script for Avengers, writing 5 movies into one movie, like, it was an incredible screenplay that he managed to pull off for Avengers. And I just, you know, if stuff like that doesn't get recognized with noms, I can't imagine the MCU winning major awards when it comes to directing and acting and writing and all that kind of stuff. But I would love to be proven wrong. Inhumans for best drama. Let's go.
Inhumans is going to win makeup. It's going to be the Suicide Squad of the Emmys.
You heard it here first. Inhumans is the Suicide Squad of the Emmys. So, wow. All right, here's another question we get a lot. How much money is Infinity War going to make? Adam, I know you have pretty big predictions on this. What do you think?
So much. It's just so much. I mean, it's gonna be the biggest Marvel movie we've ever seen. It's gotta be. I mean, I can't think why it wouldn't be the biggest Marvel movie. I mean, it's gotta be huge. I don't even want to put a number on it. It's gotta be huge. It's gotta be the biggest Marvel movie we've seen.
Meh, I think it'll be around Civil War. I mean, there was a lot of hype for Civil War. There were, a lot of characters in Civil War. They had a lot of people to push. They could send RDJ out for interviews. They could send Chris Evans out for interviews. I mean, so they'll have Chris Pratt and Hemsworth out during the press junket this time. What is going to pull in more people? I mean, all of your comic book fans were already there for Civil War. All of your Captain America fans, all of your, your Iron Man fans. So, okay, maybe Infinity War will pull in a few of your Guardians fans. The Josh Brolin fan club. Where are you going to find those more people? Or do you think it's simply going to be a movie that people need to go and see 3 or 4 times?
I just think we're going to see so much marketing we've never seen before. I mean, the merchandise and the toys we're going to see for it and the commercial. I just think once we start seeing that stuff, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be their most expansive efforts yet, I guess. Everyone's saying it's the culmination of what at that time it's going to be 10 years of movies. I just think it's going to be huge. I don't know. Caleb's the box office genius. I'm not sure what he thinks.
Yeah, I mean, my take on it. So, I look at Star Wars Force Awakens, right? Episode 7, which was a huge, gigantic movie. It did $900 million stateside and then 1.1 internationally for a total worldwide gross of just over $2 billion. That movie had everything going for it. It had the IP that everybody loves. It had characters returning, but it was also felt fresh. It was also the first one that had been released in 15 or 20 years, so there was a lot of like built-up demand for it, and it made $2 billion. I think there is fatigue in the market about superheroes. I think that for some people, when they see more characters, it doesn't actually inspire them. It says, oh boy, this is another bloated, overfilled Marvel thing. I think that there is concerns. I don't think it's going to be a great movie for people to watch as their first movie. I think if the Russos do a good job, people are going to want to watch it 3 or 4 times, but I felt like Civil War was excellent, and I watched it twice in the theater, which I never do, but it didn't get that repeat business. So I'm going to say $1.5 billion, like $1.5 billion is very possible. That would be far better than Avengers. I think it will be just a major event film, and I think if they actually kill some characters off, it's going to make a big difference as well. People are going to hear, oh, you've got to go see what happens. So I think it'll do better than Avengers did, but I don't think it'll do better by a ton. So 1.4, 1.5 billion, something like that. I think the people that are like, oh, it's definitely a 2 billion. I just don't. I don't think any movie can definitely be something that only 2 or 3 movies ever have done. You know, so.
Okay, okay, do you think they'll sell $2 billion worth of Infinity Gauntlet toys? I think so.
Yeah. No, yeah. The toys and the merch. I mean, it'll be very profitable for them. Yeah. Do not make any mistakes.
I'm just, so. I just can't. I can't wait to see everything. I mean, I love the Marvel Legends. They're gonna have to come out with 4 waves just to cover the characters and that. And then you have Thanos, and he's actually got the gauntlet, and they're gonna sell the crap out of that gauntlet. So, I'll say it's gonna be a $2 billion movie. I'll say that.
You were talking about Hulk hand cup holders?
Yes.
They need Infinity Gauntlet cup holders.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be so good. Do you think that there's a max for how many MCU movies we could get a year, or how many Netflix shows we could get a year? I feel like we talked about this one quite a bit. Rhiannon, how many Netflix shows do you want max a year?
I think max would be 4 a year. And that would be absolute. I wouldn't want there to be any more. There's lots of podcasts out there where they review 1 episode a week. And I wouldn't want there to be so many that they couldn't get done with 1 series before the next one comes out. So 4 a year.
That is exactly the math, right? 13 times 4 is 52, so.
Wow, I'm good. That engineering degree paid off. I mean, those podcasts need to take breaks for Christmas and Thanksgiving and stuff, so I'd like for one of those to be a short episode series. Like, I think Defenders was good with the 8-episode team-up series. Something shorter, but I think they could do as many as 4, but I'm happy with 3. Unless they go to shorter series, or unless there are a whole bunch of team-ups. I mean, I could handle a Heroes for Hire and a Daughters of the Dragon, rather than Iron Fist season 14. I hope they go in some different routes using some of the characters we already know.
Yeah, I'd like to see 1 in March, 1 in the summer, 1 in the fall. I don't know, maybe. I think it'd be nice to have 1 around Christmas time, too, when I have some downtime to binge. But, I don't know. Adam, how many Netflix shows do you want a year?
I would say, I think 3's the magical number across the board, 3 movies, 3 Netflix shows, and heck, why not 3 ABC shows and 3 Freeform shows? So I think that's a good number, I mean, we're doing the whole comparison thing. I mean, obviously the CW can make it work. So if CW can, I know ABC and Freeform can. Movies, yeah, I think 3's good enough because, it feels like I just watched Guardians and Spider-Man, and Ragnarok's going to be here before we know it. As long as the movies are spaced together or spaced apart decent enough, looking at next year, they're February, May, and July. It's just really top-loaded, so August through December is probably going to be very boring for us Marvel people.
Yeah, I agree. I'm worried about that too. Rhiannon, you think 3 movies?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not as worried about too many movies, but it is. I mean, the movie press tours are exhausting, and the hype for them and everything. I like to give each movie breathing room. So 3 sounds good.
All right. The last one we'll do today. People always ask this: do you want the MCU to kill characters, recast them, pass the mantle on to a different character, or how do you want to see them deal with it as actors like Robert Downey Jr. get older or age out of the roles?
I mean, one, I don't buy the whole idea of Robert Downey Jr. aging out of a role. If they can still have Harrison Ford coming out and doing Indiana Jones, if they can still, have him in a Star Wars movie, I think Robert Downey Jr. could be coming out as Iron Man, old man Iron in 30 years. But the comics seem to have written a lot of ways to handle this anyways, with new folks taking over the mantle.
When you have Thanos come to Earth, somebody's gotta die. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to killing off characters. I would much rather see them kill off the characters than recast the characters, I think, just for continuity. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed. I think people would understand if someone died when Thanos has assembled the Infinity Gauntlet and breaks up the moon and launches it towards Earth, So, yeah, in terms of aging out of roles, I get it. I guess. I'm not opposed to... The biggest thing I'm opposed to, I guess, would be recasting. I would rather see them either kill off the characters or introduce new ones, like I'm totally dropping her name. Hawkeye 2.0. Kate Bishop, there you go. Things like that. You have Carol Danvers going to Captain Marvel, and then you're introducing a new Miss Marvel. Stuff like that instead of recasting Carol Danvers to someone who's younger. That's the kind of stuff I'd like to see.
Yeah, I like the... I want to see a lot of role passing down. I want to see Valkyrie as Thor. I want to see Ironheart. I want to see... I don't know, I'd even be almost open to like an Amadeus Cho Hulk. You've mentioned Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel. Falcon or Bucky taking over Cap. I think those things would all be really fun. But I don't know if you guys have ever thought about this, I really want there to be a hard end to the MCU. Like, I want there to be a day when we can have it as a complete collection. And I don't know if that's 10 years from now, if it's 20 years from now, but like, I want there to come a point where they go, you know what? We're going to end this iteration of the universe. We're going to close the whole thing up. We're going to finish the stories. And then it's going to be one mega box set that you can put on your shelf. And then we're going to totally relaunch it when I'm, 60 years old or something. Like, I'm okay with that. I think that would be cool. And so I'm all right with that happening someday too. I just want it to be a long way down the road,
Absolutely. There's so many characters, they still have to introduce and stuff. And think of the results if they were to get Fantastic Four and X-Men rights back. They could do their own MCU just off of X-Men alone. So, just keep going how you guys are going, and hopefully sometime within our lifetime we will see that happen.
I disagree on that. I think in this day and age you don't have profitable series like this. And and this is beyond a series. There is now Marvel Studios. So would your vision be that Marvel Studios just stops, locks up shop, out of business, period, the end?
No, I would see more something like what Lucasfilm does, where you kind of bring a trilogy to an end. Like, Lucasfilm has historically brought a trilogy to an end, and they take a break for a while. And they still make Star Wars stuff, and they still do production, but they kind of wait to relaunch it. And it'll be interesting to see what they do after Episode 9. Because this is supposed to be a trilogy. They're doing 7, 8, and 9, and then they're supposed to be done with trilogy movies for a while. I don't know. I think there's something healthy about new iterations. Like, part of the reason I feel this way is because I love the Christopher Nolan Batman universe. And I don't get the Christopher Nolan Batman if they don't give up on Joel Schumacher Batman at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like, that reboot actually helped do something interesting.
And in that regard, I can see sort of what Adam was talking about. You know, like, we're in the Iron Man, Captain America, Guardians decade of Marvel Studios. So maybe when that is over, we will have the Fantastic Four, Captain Marvel, you know, cosmic side. You know, the cosmic... They've been very open about moving towards the cosmic universe, and we'll have that. And it simply, whether they survive or not, some of these characters we've known and loved for the past decade will fade into the background. And then whatever comes next, comes next.
Yeah, I just think there is a limited good here. Like, I love Marvel, and I love how deep their characters are. But I do think there's a point where they'll get to a place where they either have to repeat themselves or do something I don't care about. You know, like if Phase 7 of Marvel is like Brother Voodoo and Morbius and Shang-Chi and Black Knight, you know, like I'm not sure I want to see that era of Marvel. I'd rather them just close the thing up and reboot with a new Captain America and Iron Man. So, all right, I think that's our questions, guys. Do you have anything else you want to talk about in this kind of very loosey-goosey topic that we did today?
I will say I do want to see Brother Voodoo, but those other characters you mentioned, yeah, I could live without.
I would like to see him too, just maybe not in his own movie. Maybe, I don't know.
Doctor Strange too, for sure.
I have to say that if Thanos does rip the moon in half and throw it at Earth, that might be where my suspension of disbelief will have to just shut down. Because that would just screw up the tides and everything. I mean, just like, there's so much for Earth to go on. If they don't explain that away, I might not be able to handle it.
It could be one of Jupiter's moons, I guess. I don't know if you've ever heard which moon it is.
Oh, okay.
I guess we don't even know if they're on Earth, because it was like Tony and Star-Lord and whoever, I think. I don't know.
Doctor Strange, yeah.
Okay.
Then that means Thanos would kill Attilan. How do they say it in the show?
Attilan.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've never heard someone say Avatar the way that Rhiannon does. That was something new I learned today.
Did I say Avatar or Avatar?
You said Avatar, yeah.
I said Avatar?
Yeah, I just have never heard anybody say it that way.
I don't keep track.
Let's get into our mailbag. We have lots of mail. It's kind of cool. We're getting more and more interaction as we're in new places. I still want to try to interact with it, but it could be very long, so I am going to go speed through this, and you guys, if anything's interesting, note it down, and we'll talk about it at the end of me going quickly. On SoundCloud, Cash Craig reminded us that apparently Kevin Feige reports to Alan Horn and not Bob Iger at Disney. Thank you, my friend. Do not know that, so that's interesting information. Also had some other good thoughts on our podcast last week. Michael Ford on Twitter at Michael T. Ford. He thinks that Jessica Drew is the show that's coming from ABC. I don't think that's happening because I think Jessica Drew is going to be in Silver and Black, and I think that Sony's not going to let that happen, but we'll see. It would be certainly an interesting show. Jack Hammer was saying on Twitter he'd like for crossovers to happen more often. Dave on the website gave this interesting theory that Speedball was originally part of the script of Civil War until Spider-Man came in. That's interesting. I had not heard that before. Ultimate Typeface gave his list of crossovers that he wants to see. He'd love to see Spidey, Daredevil, and Kingpin, which I do as well. He wants to see Spidey, Cap, and Punisher. I do think the Cap-Punisher relationship, particularly as explored in the Civil War comics, is really interesting, so I'd love to see those two together at some point. He'd like to see Heroes for Hire and Avengers. I do want to see Luke Cage on the Avengers at some point. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Black Widow, that is one that... if they ever do a Black Widow movie and there's flashbacks, I want to see her interact with Melinda May and stuff like that. Phantomir was saying that we shouldn't give Marvel such a break on connectivity and on continuity because Star Wars does it and they do it really well and they hire people to make sure they do it well. All I would say to that is Star Wars has a whole lot less moving parts. They have one movie a year and one TV show a year. Marvel is running 10 TV shows and 3 movies a year, so that's a little different. But I agree, Star Wars does it well. Blackfire said we need somebody to be a continuity expert to work with Loeb and Feige. Love Waffle was saying that the issues with movies and TVs was obvious based on season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which he thought was really poor because of the movie connections. Chris thought we have enough connection already. Storm made up some kind of quote about Kevin Feige saying the X-Men are coming or something, or a crossover, which I didn't understand. Padriac Conway on YouTube said he wants to see Bobby come back. Wes Collins was suggesting that some of the crossover stuff could happen in post-production and dialogue lines could be added. I do know from talking to the toy people at HasCon, they do a lot of stuff in post-production beyond what you'd think. He was saying the character designs are never locked in until the last possible minute because of CGI stuff. Swan Pride thinks that there's more connections that are going to be coming. Kyle William Livingston said he'd just like to see more ABC Netflix connections. Don't worry about the movies. It would just be nice to see Daredevil show up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something like that. And Krite Dragon Films was saying that more crossovers are going to happen once shows are canceled. And I agree with him. I think that when Daredevil is done, they will bring Daredevil into the movie universe. Particularly Charlie Cox wants to get the pay upgrade. I think that's it. That's most of the big mailbag stuff. Any of that interesting, guys?
Yeah, just thanks for writing in, everybody. It's great to know that you're listening and, calling us out.
Yes, that's true. Fanamir also, Adam, suggested that you should like Star Wars more than you do, I think.
Yeah, it's all right.
We were talking this week. You have an awesome Midwestern accent that I think people take as disinterest, which is really just you talking because of where you're from. Is that true?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just disinterested because I live in the Midwest.
Oh, okay. That's it. I got it. Just like it slowly puts you to sleep with the quiet sounds of crickets out in the cornfields.
If I lived in the Midwest, everything else would be interesting because, never mind. I'm going to go about and bash the Midwest. And then
yeah, all of our Iowa listeners are about to get very angry.
I know. Sorry, guys.
All two of them. Midwest. Don't worry, they're my family members.
Sorry, Adam's dad.
That's true. The other day,
I've been in Wisconsin once. It was awesome.
When you guys were doing the Facebook Live thing the other day, wasn't there 4 MCU Exchange writer parents on there?
Yeah, 4 of the 8 or whatever.
Oh, it was awesome. You can still see those on Facebook if you guys want to go check it out. All right. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you want to send us messages and talk with us, the best way to do that is via Twitter at Marvel News Desk. You can also communicate with us on SoundCloud or the MCU Exchange posts that we do each week. If you would like to do something that helps the show out, you can leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. That's the best way to help other people see us. The most important thing, though, you can do to support our show is just to listen every week and to tell your friends about it. We want to thank Tim Cox for our icon. You can find him on Instagram at Tim V. Cox, and also thanks to Alvin for our theme music. You can find his music on Twitter and some other places as at the Skull School. So thanks to those guys for that stuff. Other than that, I think that does it for this week. And so I appreciate you guys listening, and have a good week, and we'll talk to you later.